Welcome to the first video in a 4-part series on the more advanced features in Bytes Obscurium. This video we're going to be covering the draw tools, the modifiers, and the super obscure mode, and we're going to be using the Aero Gap preset, which is found in the Aero Naught subfolder. Right, so here's what it sounds like. And over to the draw tools now, we have a pen tool or a free draw tool. We have a line tool, which is it's a ruler tool, which draws lines. We have a paintbrush, which is the random generator tool, and we have a sign tool. So the pen tool is the free draw tool, and you can simply click around in the motion sequencer and draw your values in however you like, or you can do individual steps. We can also change how many steps we want to draw at once with the slider around the edge. So for example, I could pick 8 steps and draw 8 steps chunks, or I could do 4 steps and just change 4 steps at once. The line tool or the ruler tool draws a straight line in an angle that you define by using this slider here. So I'm going to angle it up, click at the bottom and drag to get a nice smooth line, or I can angle it down, click and drag to get a line down. You can also draw backwards if you like. The paint tool, which is the fun one, is the random generator. This slider determines how much random generation happens. So if I have it on a low amount and move it, we get a little bit of randomness, but if I put it up to the max, we get a big amount. Very good. Now the sine tool is a little sine wave generator. It's like an LFO in a way. You pick a frequency or a speed or how fast it goes, and then you pick an amplitude, which is how intense it is or how much is applied. So let's just have a little of both, and I'm going to click and drag, and you'll see we get a nice sine wave in our motion sequencer. Let's use a lot of frequency and a lot of amplitude, and you'll see things get quite chaotic. We also have a draw all button. The draw all button draws all the parameter values at once, so we can click on a step and draw them all at once, but the offset determines the spread or how spaced out they are. So we can do big spaced out spready draws like that, or we can make them small and just have little small gathered parameter values. Moving over to the modifiers. The modifiers is a very interesting area. It allows you to isolate a single step and then do things to the parameters, shift them around, copy and paste, do all this kind of stuff. The first two buttons are the move all left button and the move all right button. This moves the entire motion sequencer either left or right. The lock button is really handy. When this is enabled, when you pick a step, it locks that step in. So now if I play a note, it's going to continue playing that step over and over. If the lock button is off, it starts from the start of the sequence. So I'm going to keep that on for now. Right, we have here a copy and paste to the left button and a copy and paste to the right button. So let's say I pick this step and I click the button, it's copied that step and put it directly to the left, or I can do it and click the copy and paste to the right and it's pasted it to the right. We also have a swap around with the left or swap around with the right button. So if I select this step here, click this button, it's now swapped these two steps around, and I can do it in the other way. It's swapped these two steps around. There is a copy and a paste. So if I choose copy here, choose this step and copy it, I can then click somewhere else and paste it. And I find this is really handy for when you're working with percussion. Say you make a good snare and you want to copy the snare to the right places. This is where you would use the copy and the paste. Let's talk about the modifiers. So we have 3 modifiers here. The first one is the move modifier. What this does is if I select a step, it moves all the parameter values up or down. So every single value gets moved evenly up or down. You'll notice as it reaches the top or the bottom of the screen, it reverses itself and it kind of mirrors. So it keeps going, but it just starts going in the opposite direction. This is what it sounds like. The next modifier is the stretch or shrink modifier, and this shrinks all the values down to one particular point or expands them away. This is a really good effect. Let's listen. So I'm going to shrink it down and use the move modifier to bring them all down low. And then let's expand it. We'll stretch it out. Bring it back up to the middle and expand it out again. The final one is the rotate modifier. This is like using the shift slider over here, except it's more destructive. What it does is it swaps one parameter for the parameter above it or below it. So it swaps the value around. So you'll see as I use the move tool, all the colorful dots kind of cycle around and all of these values are going to be cycled around. Let's use them all at once. Finally, there's an all button, and this is handy if you quickly just want to adjust a single parameter. So if I turn this off, only the parameter that I have selected will now be applied using these modifiers. So this is good if you just quickly want to change one parameter without having to go back into the Draw Tools mode. You can just turn this off and quickly change one parameter. Okay, let's move over to Super Obscure. Super Obscure is the random generator, and what it does is it picks a whole set of new draw tools for each of the 16 parameter modulation lanes and draws a whole new sequence for you. And that sequence size depends on how big this grid slider is. So if I just have the grid on 1, it's going to randomly generate every single step. If I have it on 8, it's going to wait 8 steps before it randomizes all those draw tools. So I'm going to put it at 4 for now, and I'll just turn it on for you and play it for you, and I'll explain what happens afterwards. Let's play it. Now you'll notice that when that sequence finished, it turned the power off for us. This is really handy so you don't overwrite stuff that you've just randomly generated. You can, however, turn on infinity, and what that does is when it reaches the end of the sequence, it will continue to randomly generate until you turn it off manually. Now what's going on with these dials here? Now we have a multiplier and we have an addition. So I'm going to turn this on. The multiplier determines the spread over the vertical axis. So this determines the spread of all the parameter values, and the add determines the position of where the values are going to be. So if I make this quite large and this quite down, and let's make it every 2 steps and play. We can bring this down and make this quite high if we like. We also have a random add button, and when you turn this on, it randomly changes the add value, but you can determine how random it is using this slider here. So if I pick one grid point, random add on, maximum random generation for the add, and put the multiplier down, I will make this quite large, we're going to get real chaos every single step. Very good. Now, one thing you can do is if you like a particular segment that you've randomly generated, let's say I like this first loop bar, I'm going to bring this loop bar back to these first 4 steps, and I'm going to copy it using the morph area. That means we can now paste it anywhere we like. I can drag these loop bars to another area and paste it, or I can drag the loop bars out to expand over the whole motion sequencer and hit paste, and those first 4 steps now are over everything. So there we go, that concludes this video on Draw Tools, Modifier, and Super Obscure.